Larry Brown is a Hall of Fame coach. He won an NBA championship with the Detroit Pistons in 2004. He's respected across the basketball world for his commitment to fundamentals, discipline, and doing things the right way. But in the summer of 2004, Larry Brown made a series of decisions that turned what should have been a dominant Olympic gold medal run into one of the most embarrassing moments in USA basketball history. And at the center of that disaster was a 19-year-old LeBron James, who watched most of the tournament from the bench while the world laughed at Team USA. This is the story of how ego, stubbornness, and a need for control cost America Olympic glory and left some of the greatest players in basketball history with scars that lasted for decades. Let's start with the roster, because understanding just how stacked this team was makes the failure even more painful. Team USA for the 2004 Olympics in Athens had LeBron James fresh off his rookie season where he proved he was the real deal. They had Allen Iverson, the 2001 MVP and one of the most electrifying players in the league. They had Carmelo Anthony, who had just led Syracuse to a national championship and was coming off one of the greatest college basketball seasons ever. They had Dwayne Wade, who was already showing flashes of superstardom in his second NBA season. They had Amare Stoudemire, one of the most athletic big men in the game. They had Tim Duncan, the greatest power forward of all time. They had Stephon Marbury, Richard Jefferson, Lamar Odom, Carlos Boozer, Emeka Okafor, and Shawn Marion. This wasn't just a good team. This was an absolutely loaded roster with future Hall of Famers, MVP candidates, and championship-level talent at every position. And leading them was Larry Brown, who had just won the NBA championship with the Detroit Pistons a few months earlier. Brown was known as a defensive genius, someone who could take a group of players and turn them into a cohesive unit that played hard, played smart, and played together. The formula that worked in Detroit, where he won a title with a team that wasn't the most talented but was the most disciplined, was the same formula he planned to use with Team USA. And that's where everything started to fall apart. Because the 2004 Pistons succeeded by playing as a unit, by sacrificing individual stats for team success, by grinding out wins with defense and execution. But Team USA didn't need that. Team USA had LeBron James, they had Allen Iverson, they had enough raw talent to overwhelm anyone just by letting their best players do what they do best. But Larry Brown didn't see it that way. The first sign that something was seriously wrong came before the Olympics even started. Team USA was in Jacksonville, Florida for an exhibition game against Puerto Rico. This was supposed to be a...
Larry Brown had started the meeting at 1:55 p.m., 5 minutes before the official scheduled time. He didn't tell the team about the time change. He didn't send out a message. He just started the meeting early. And when LeBron, Iverson, and Stoudemire walked in at 1:57, still 3 minutes before the 2 p.m. scheduled start, Brown decided they were late, so he suspended them, right there. On the spot. No discussion, no second chance, no understanding that they were actually early according to the time they were given, just a cold, calculated power move designed to send a message. Carmelo Anthony witnessed the whole thing, and in January 2025, more than 20 years later, he finally told the full story on his podcast. He said the minute he knew what type of environment Team USA was going to be was when those 3 guys got suspended in Florida for being a minute early to a meeting. Melo couldn't believe it. Nobody could. This wasn't about punctuality. This was about control. This was Larry Brown establishing dominance, making it clear that he was in charge and that it didn't matter who you were or how talented you were going to follow his rules or sit on the bench. Amare Stoudemire's family had flown down to Jacksonville specifically to watch him play. His parents, his siblings, they were sitting in the stands excited to see their son represent his country in an exhibition game, and Stoudemire had to sit there in street clothes, watching from the bench because he showed up 3 minutes early to a meeting that started 5 minutes before it was supposed to. The fans in Jacksonville were furious. They started booing when they realized LeBron and Iverson weren't playing. They chanted for their heroes. They wanted to see the stars. But Larry Brown didn't care. The message was sent. But here's where it gets deeper. Carmelo Anthony revealed something else on that podcast that explains a lot about what was really happening. He said that Larry Brown didn't want Allen Iverson influencing the young players, especially LeBron James. Brown and Iverson had a long, complicated history together. Brown coached Iverson in Philadelphia from 1997 to 2003, and their relationship was rocky at best. Iverson was the epitome of street basketball, Raw talent, unfiltered emotion, tattoos, cornrows, doing things his own way. Larry Brown was old school. Suit and tie, military discipline, do it the right way or don't do it at all. They clashed constantly. Remember the infamous practice rant? The one where Iverson went off about how the media was talking about practice, not a game, not a playoff game, but practice. That happened under Larry Brown. That was the result of years of tension between a coach who valued structure and a player who valued freedom. And when Brown got to Team USA and saw Iverson hanging out with LeBron, talking to him, building a relationship, Brown saw a problem. He saw Iverson as a bad influence who would corrupt the most hyped prospect since Michael Jordan. So that suspension in Jacksonville wasn't just about being late. It was about sending a message to Iverson specifically.
I'm not letting you lead LeBron down your path. This is my team, not yours. Stephon Marbury, another player on that roster, also clashed with Brown throughout the Olympics. Marbury would later say the environment was toxic. The veterans felt disrespected, the young guys felt confused, and Larry Brown thought he was building championship culture. But championship culture requires trust. And after Jacksonville, the trust was completely gone. The players didn't trust the coach didn't trust the players, and that dysfunction was about to explode on the international stage. Despite the suspensions, Team USA beat Puerto Rico easily in that exhibition game, winning 96-71. The talent gap was just too big. Even without LeBron, Iverson, and Stoudemire, the Americans had more than enough firepower to dominate. So when Team USA arrived in Athens for the 2004 Olympics, confidence was still high. Sure, the Jacksonville incident was weird and uncomfortable, but they had LeBron James, Allen Iverson, Dwayne Wade, Carmelo Anthony, and Tim Duncan. How could they possibly lose? August 15, 2004, group stage opener, USA versus Puerto Rico, and Puerto Rico beat them 92-73. Let that sink in for a second. The United States of America, with a roster full of future Hall of Famers, lost to Puerto Rico by 19 points. It was the biggest margin of defeat in Olympic history for Team USA with NBA players. The 24-game Olympic winning streak that stretched back to 1992 was shattered, gone, done. The faces on the American bench told the whole story. LeBron James looked stunned. Carmelo Anthony looked lost. Dwayne Wade looked confused. Because here's the thing that made it even worse. They barely played. LeBron James, the future greatest player of all time, averaged about 5 minutes per game throughout the entire tournament in Athens. Carmelo Anthony, who had just won a national championship and was one of the most unstoppable scorers in the country, same thing. Dwayne Wade, who would go on to win 3 NBA championships and become one of the greatest shooting guards ever, same thing. Larry Brown didn't trust the young guys. He went with veterans. He played it safe. He played the right way. And the right way got them embarrassed on the biggest stage in international basketball. After the Puerto Rico loss, Larry Brown stood at the podium and said the team had to play better defensively. There was no mention of the fact that his best athletes were glued to the bench. No acknowledgement that maybe, just maybe, letting LeBron James and Carmelo Anthony actually play basketball might have been a good idea. The criticism started immediately. Analysts were baffled. Fans were furious. Why is LeBron sitting? Why isn't Melo playing? What is Larry Brown doing? But Brown didn't budge. He had a system, and the system was more important than individual talent. Things didn't get better. They got worse. Lithuania beat Team USA in the group stage. Then came the semifinal against Argentina, and this is where the wheels completely fell off. Manu Ginobili dropped 29 points on Team USA. He was cooking. Crossovers, Euro steps, ridiculous passes, creative finishes. Manu was putting on an absolute clinic. And on the other end, Team USA looked lost. No rhythm, no chemistry, no heart. Argentina won 89-81, and it wasn't even that close. The Americans were humiliated. And once again, LeBron, Melo, and Wade were watching most of it happen from the bench. After the game, Manu Ginobili gave an interview that stung. He said the rest of the world is getting better, and the Americans can't just show up anymore and expect to win. He was right, but it wasn't that the world got so much better.
It was that Larry Brown refused to unleash the weapons he had. Allen Iverson would later say that LeBron James might have played 5 minutes a game, and Carmelo might have played 5 minutes a game. The talent was there, it just didn't happen. The pain in Iverson's voice when he talked about it years later was real. AI knew they should have dominated, but Brown's system got in the way. Team USA ended up playing Lithuania again in the bronze medal game. They won 104-96, securing third place. Bronze, not gold, not silver, bronze. It was the first time Team USA failed to win gold since NBA players were allowed to compete starting in 1992. The Dream Team era was officially over, and Larry Brown's obsession with discipline, with doing it the right way, with proving that his system worked, had cost America.
LeBron James, just 19 years old, stood on that podium with a bronze medal around his neck. His face said everything. This wasn't what he signed up for. This wasn't the Olympic experience he dreamed of. He'd been humiliated, benched, and disrespected, all because a coach valued control over talent. And in the locker room after that bronze medal game, Carmelo Anthony made a decision. He looked at that bronze medal and decided it didn't mean anything. Not like this. Not after being disrespected for 3 weeks. Not after watching the best collection of American basketball talent get embarrassed because of coaching ego. For years, Melo said he threw the medal in a lake. He later clarified that he actually auctioned it off for charity, selling it for $14,800. But the idea that he threw it away stuck, because that's how much the 2004 Olympics hurt. It wasn't a memory worth keeping. It was a scar. It was a reminder of what could have been and what was stolen from them by a coach who cared more about making a point than making history. Allen Iverson carried the pain even longer. Years later, in interviews, he said the 2004 Olympics always haunted him. It became AI's biggest regret. Not winning an NBA championship, not the practice rant, not any of the controversies that followed him throughout his career. This, losing in Athens, knowing they had the talent but couldn't get it together. Knowing that if the coach had just trusted them, just let them play, they would have won gold easily. LeBron James kept his emotions closer to the vest. After the bronze medal game, he told reporters that the team lacked discipline, which is ironic considering Larry Brown's entire philosophy was built on discipline. Maybe LeBron meant a different kind of discipline, the kind where you trust your best players instead of suspending them for being early to a meeting, the kind where you let talent win instead of forcing everyone into a rigid system that doesn't fit. The fallout continued back in the NBA. Larry Brown and Stephon Marbury's feud got worse. Brown left Detroit shortly after and bounced around the league for a few more years, coaching the Knicks, the Bobcats, and eventually retiring without ever finding the same success he had in Detroit. The players from that 2004 team vowed it would never happen again, and in 2008 they made good on that promise. The 2008 Olympics in Beijing saw Team USA come back with a vengeance. They called themselves the Redeem Team, and that name wasn't just marketing, it was personal. This time there was no Larry Brown. The coaching staff, led by Mike Krzyzewski, trusted the players. LeBron wasn't sitting on the bench, he was leading. Melo wasn't watching, he was scoring. Wade wasn't confused, he was dominating. Kobe Bryant joined the team and brought an intensity and focus that elevated everyone. And they won gold easily, convincingly, the way everyone knew they should have in 2004. Larry Brown never coached Team USA again. His time with the national team ended in Athens, with a bronze medal and a roster full of resentment. Players didn't speak his name for years. The suspension in Jacksonville became basketball folklore, a cautionary tale about what happens when ego gets in the way of greatness. In January 2025, Carmelo Anthony finally told the full story on his podcast, 21 years after it happened, and he still remembered every detail. The meeting, the suspension, the disrespect, the bronze medal he threw away or auctioned off, and the question that still hangs in the air. Did Larry Brown's ego cost LeBron James and Team USA their shot at Olympic glory? The answer is yes,
Unquestionably, yes. Larry Brown had the most talented Olympic roster in history sitting on his bench. He had LeBron James at 19 years old, hungry, athletic, and ready to prove himself on the world stage. He had Carmelo Anthony, fresh off a national championship. He had Dwayne Wade and Allen Iverson. He had everything he needed to dominate, and he chose control over talent. He chose to prove a point over winning gold. And the result was the most embarrassing performance in USA basketball history. So the next time someone tells you that